uh, ugh, ugh. So how was your weekend? Sick. Oh, dang. Yeah. Oh, okay. Feelings. uh, uh, oh, yeah. What are you going to do after work? Yeah. Oh, you got class? Well, you don't. Do you have class? Oh, okay. There ain't no way you can sneak in a cat nap? Yeah. See if you can sneak in a cat nap. You know. Don't burn yourself out. So how are your friends doing? Oh, okay. What'd you say? Oh, the other's trying to find a job. All right. Uh, what happened to the weren't two of the quads your roommates? Oh. When are you gonna get new ones? Oh, okay. Okay. So, so what's the, well, I was gonna say, do you have to be on campus, but you don't? I mean, like for your freshman year. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm trying to get your brother to start working out. I'm like, Davis, he does a lot of jump rope. and he cleared out the back porch to practice his soccer. Jay, he says he wants to slim down, you know, which is cool, you know. Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm from the thought of you gotta kind of get it in how you can until you're able to create the setting. You know. You know. That's where your mom was like, I've seen you, you know, do this and do that. You know, you literally talked up a recording studio. Even when we had that first house and it was just like your drum set in an empty basement. And she was like, I used to be like, you talk about some studio. She said, now you actually have a studio. So it's just a matter of getting it in how you get it in, you know, until you can create the setting. You know, you know, I've done that with a lot of stuff, actually. You know, like I wanted a gym, you know, so I would just use this room as kind of like a gym until I was able to create one, you know. So it's kind of like if you don't have the environment, you know, you just kind of make it, you know, create the environment if you don't have it, you know. Eventually, you know, I don't believe in that manifestation stuff, but it's not like I sat here and just like, oh, I'm going to manifest the gym. Like, it's kind of like you visualize what you want. And eventually, if you focus on it, eventually it's going to happen. You focus on it and you work on it. Eventually it's going to happen. You know. It may take time. And that's the thing. You know, with everything, it just takes time. You know, it just takes time and effort. Time, effort, and research. You know, and you eventually just pick up pieces from here and there until you finally have what you want. Now, in my situation, the technology, I realized my thinking was ahead of the technology because, you know, as the home recording technology caught up, then I was like, then I was able to kind of really fully create what I wanted to create, you know. So, I don't know. Because back in the day, they had like ridiculously expensive stuff, you know. But yeah, just create your own environment, you know. Over time, eventually you get there. Kind of like Davis did the same thing. He's all stuck on this soccer thing. And he was like, yeah, he's stuck on the soccer thing. So he's like, Dad, you know, it was something. Oh, he was like, yeah, he wanted some cleats. And I was like, okay, well, that's your birthday gift then. Or it might have been birthday or Christmas or whatever. And then that's your Christmas gift. So I bought him. And then he didn't have any place to practice. So he cleared out the back, you know what I mean? He kind of made the environment, you know? Kind of like what you're doing, you know? You wanted what you wanted. So you said, okay, I'm going to, you know, you decided, you made a decision to focus on your schoolwork, you know, and you're actually on the way of creating your environment. So, you know, you have an end goal, you know. That's kind of like life. Life is what you create. You know, life is, I don't believe, well, it's a little different. Is the term life is what you make. I believe life is what you create. You can create your own life. You know, it just depends on what you want to do. Certain things may take longer than the others, but if you want it bad enough, you'll create it. You know, like, again, that's like what you're doing, you know. So, yeah. She said the basic needs. Well, I mean, being a doctor, you're going to have more than the basic needs. You're going to have a lot more than the basic needs. So, you know. I was talking to Mr. Stacy Brown. You remember Sydney's dad. And I was like, yeah, you know. I said, my daughter want to go to school for medicine. I was talking to another guy. He was like, I don't know, because the malpractice insurance is crazy. And then he was like, well, if Cheryl becomes a doctor, she can well afford the insurance. She can well afford the insurance. She'll be making enough money. I was like, yeah, I never thought about that. So. Yeah. What, like 40,000? Yeah. That's broke. 40,000 broke. Yeah. Why your last year? Oh, yeah. So it's like you're on call, basically. It's like you're doing maintenance. You make $40,000 and you're always on call. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's like maintenance. You know, you work 8 hours and then you're on call, which means you're waking up in the middle of the night. And yeah, the only difference is in maintenance, you really don't have you know, unless you're planning on being like a supervisor, then you can make like 60, 70, 80,000, you know. Well, if you're a supervisor, you make about 60, 55 to 60. But it's kind of like crap rolls downhill. So if one of the guys under you doesn't do his job, the complaints go to customer service, and then it gets to HR, and then one of the upper managers or the middle managers, the upper managers talk to the middle managers and they get chewed out. The middle managers go to the lower managers, like the maintenance supervisors, and they really get chewed out, you know. So then if you can't become at least a regional supervisor, you know, there's less drama, you know. I actually had an offer. I don't know if you were born yet. You weren't born yet. I was just going for a regular maintenance position. I was like, yeah, you know. So I came in, suit and tie and everything. And they were like, well, we don't have any maintenance positions available, but we have a regional supervisor position available. You think you can do that? I said, yup, yes I can. You know. The only thing, they were like, it said you have a record from 1991. I was like, you know. They were like, but we're going to keep you on file. And it was a hiring firm. And it was, they said it was a hiring firm. The company, the property management company, used a hiring firm to hire people. So they were like, well, they said if you applied directly to the company, they'd probably hire you. They said, but since we're a hiring firm, that's one of the things we have. You can't have a record. They said, but we're gonna keep your resume on file. So, you know, I was like, all right, well, whatever. You know, I mean, it's a pretty easy job if you know what you're doing. You know. All right. Yeah, I heard him like, what are you doing standing in the corner? All right, love you. All right, bye-bye. Here we go. There we go. Yo, Bad Bunny is dope. I'm gonna listen to the song he has, Monaco. He's got a lot of good songs, man. He's got the best of both worlds. You know, he's hip hop. You know, well, he's reggaeton, which is hip hop. just Spanish hip hop. But he has the best of both worlds in that he appeals to the hip hop, but he appeals to the Latin community, you know. So that's the one thing I miss. I do a lot of traveling. That's when you're young and single. I went to Italy, went to France, went to England, went to Germany, went to Mexico City, went to Cancun, but that was my honeymoon. Went to Bermuda, Bahamas, Toronto, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Japan, Hong Kong, Johannesburg, Nairobi, Israel, Egypt. Only places I haven't gone but I want to go to is Russia, like Ukraine or somewhere, and Australia. Australia and like, I went to Brazil, I went to Argentina. They kind of look at you, if you're black, they look at you funny, you know. Unless they realize you're from America, it's a little different. They're like, oh, you're American, oh. It's like, yo, what's the difference? I'm no different than the black folks down here. You look at me different because I'm American. But yeah, and Hawaii. But I don't know if I want to go to Hawaii anymore. California keeps flying their homeless people out to Hawaii. I don't know about that anymore. You know, we got homeless people right here in the States. I don't want to go another place that's kind of like a tropical island. You see homeless people, you know. So yeah. But when you got 4 kids, you know, unless you making bank like that, you know, traveling is out of the picture, you know. So, you know. So, if you're single, travel as much as you can. Like I had a guy yesterday, he was asking me, hey man, how do I pull babes? And it might have been yesterday, might have been day, no, it was day before yesterday. How do you pull hot babes? Oh, yeah, it was in the morning, Saturday morning I was working out. He was like, how do you pull hot babes? I was like, be interesting. Be interesting. Have a decent conversation, you know. He's like, but what do I gotta say? I was like, I'm not, you know, I never needed a pickup line. I never needed a bunch of money. I never needed, you know, fancy clothes. I never needed a fancy car. I was just myself. Just be yourself, you know. You know, be yourself, you know. You know, if you don't know how to talk to people, something's wrong. You need to go outside and touch some grass, bro. You know, go outside, go take up a hobby, read a bunch of books, read a lot, you know, have something to say, man. You know, be an interesting person, have a conversation instead of, you know, talking about whatever you saw online. I guarantee you, for a man, if a man And I call it just being cultured, gaining culture. If a man is is well read, well traveled, even if he can't leave the country, travel around the states, take a road trip. I was fortunate in that we took, when I grew up, me and my friends took road trips all the time. We were in New York, you're like, hey, let's drive to Virginia Beach. Okay, cool. Hey, let's drive to Georgia. Let's drive to Florida. Let's drive to wherever, And my boy, Gil, he likes collecting Alfa Romeos. So we take his 5-seater Alfa Romeo, me and him, pack up the back, the back seat in the trunk with luggage, just drive. And that car was a rocket. He's got like 3 of them. But that's all we did. Hey, let's drive to New Orleans. So we drive to New Orleans. California was a little too far. I'll take a plane trip for that. But, you know what I mean? Drive to Chicago. Drive wherever, and just travel, hang out in the parks, if there's a local park, hang out where there ain't no bums. Here in Atlanta, they ship all the homeless people outside of the city. So you can go to the parks and just kind of hang out and put a little blanket under a tree and kind of get a nice radio. You'll see people out there playing kickball, other people out there playing baseball. They got basketball courts. They got areas where you could skateboard or you can ride your scooters and stuff like that. You can feed the ducks, all that stuff, But this is like, I used to do all this stuff, like I said, before I was married. I just hang out in the park, by myself, to be around people. I think that's the main thing. Be around people, man. Go outside and touch some grass. Read some books, touch some grass. Go to a movie by yourself, So in a lot of ways, I can't relate to a lot of, no, I didn't want to do that. In a lot of ways, I can't relate to what's going on in terms of, dudes not knowing how to, talk to women. I can't relate to it because, I've just known how. And this is coming from me. I'm a painfully shy person. There we go. I'm a painfully shy person. And I knew that being a musician, shy musicians don't make money. They don't. You got to be out of yourself. So that's fine if you're shy, but you got to learn to be out of yourself. You got to learn to talk to people. So I put myself in situations where I had to talk to people. I'd literally go to the mall and just walk around just because, and strike up conversations with people, strike up conversations with perfect. I'm good at that, but it's because I've practiced it. I've done it for so much. I've done it for so long that it just became natural to be able to strike up conversations with people, And the reason why I say do stuff like that by yourself, certain stuff, like me and my boy Gil, we'd go on road trips. But different stuff like hanging out in the park or whatever, or going to the movies or whatever, or just hanging out in the mall. I would just literally go to the mall, get a cup of coffee, have my backpack, sit down, read a book, you know, no earbuds, because when people see you that you have headphones or earbuds, that signals don't bother me, you know, but sit there at a table and just read a book, you know, or get my book bag, go to the food court, buy something to eat, you know, I'd like buy something small, like, you know, like a croissant or like some fries or something like that, something small to nibble on, just to read a book, you know, you won't have to say anything. People, not just women, people in general will come up to you, especially if it's an interesting book. They'll come up to you, you know. My point is, go outside, touch some grass, man. You know, get offline and touch some grass. You know, I forgot to turn that fan on. It is hot. But yeah, be interesting. You know, be an interesting person. And like, I don't know if you guys were here when I was talking to my daughter. My daughter is in pre-med. But life is what you create. You create what you want in life. Nobody's gonna hand you anything. They're not gonna hand you anything. Period. Nobody's gonna give you anything. You gotta create what you want. You got to make what you want. You got to create the life that you want for yourself. You know, you got to work hard, you know, stay focused, all the distractions, move them out the way, and do what you want to do. And I say this, man, I'm an ex-con, you know, and I was able to create a pretty decent life for myself. And I'm not the only one. You make a decision, make a firm decision, and stick to it. You know, when I got out of prison, I said, I'm not going back. You know, and I've always been a reader, so I would read a lot. You know, I see a lot of guys, they would go in there, they'd start gambling or whatever, or with the pen pals and all that stuff. I didn't have any time for that. I just became a voracious reader. You know, I read and read and read and read and read and read to keep my mind outside of prison. You know, so then when I got out, I hit the ground running. You know, hit the ground running. You know, I got a job while I was in prison. It was the second highest paid job. The first highest paid job was, once you're like within 8 months of your parole date, like when I was in prison, when you're behind the wall, you might get a job in the kitchen. Like I had a job in the kitchen. Eventually the head chef left, so I became the head chef. They trained me and all of that. I became the chef. I got out, I had I think 8 months left. So I got out and I got to an honor camp. Now an honor camp, it's like, they call it a camp for a reason. It's like boys camp it's like summer camp for like grown men. You wear your own clothes, you wear jewelry, you know, or if you still got your state khakis, you can wear those, you know. I mainly stayed in my state khakis and I would order clothes. I would just go into magazines, go into catalogs, save my money. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy that. And I like that blazer. Okay. I'm going to buy that. Send it home. Okay. I like those shoes. Buy that. Send it home. I like those slacks. Like I would just buy a bunch of stuff. Okay. I like this leather coat. Let me buy that. You know, so I would just buy stuff, you know, and then, you know, once I had a nice amount, well, I was already sending money home when I was in behind the wall. But when I got the last 8 months, I want to say it was more than 8 months. It might have been like 9.5 months. I was in an honor camp, but I was making a little more money, a lot more money actually. Worked, you're working in the community, all that stuff. So, you're not like the dudes on the side of the road wearing like white, and no, you're wearing your own clothes. Unless you choose to wear the uniforms, the state clothes. Me, I chose to wear the state clothes because I'm not going to dirty up or soil up my clothes doing state work. I sent my stuff home. I bought a pair of Air Maxes, pair of white, black, and blue Air Max 95s, a pair of a pair of Gap jeans, and I can't remember what kind of t-shirt it was. It was like International Male t-shirt. It was a nice t-shirt. And a backpack. I got out. And I didn't wear that because those are the clothes I was gonna wear when I got out. So I worked and worked and worked. If it wasn't saving my money, sending clothes home, if I wasn't sending clothes home or saving my money, I was buying a bunch of books. And about a month before I was about to go home, I shipped all my books home. I shipped the ones that I wanted, I shipped them home. The ones that I didn't want, I gave them out to my friends. And I left. So that by the time I came home, I had a job within a week. Not even a week. Like 4 days. 4 days after I came home, I had a job like that. Because I made a decision. I said, I'm not coming back to prison. Life is what you create. If there's something you want to do, nothing's going to stop you. Nothing's going to stop you. So yeah. I don't know how long I've been riding. 37 minutes? Okay. Ride at 45. So, and I try to teach my kids that. One of the mottos in my home is, don't tell me what you can't do. You either don't want to put in the work, or you just haven't figured it out yet. But you can do whatever you want to do. If you work hard enough and you figure it out, you apply enough brain power, you figure it out. There's nothing you can't do. I think what happens is, well, first of all, that's what you're supposed to do. Once you learn that lesson, you're supposed to share it with other people. Knowledge and wisdom is like money. You don't take it with you when you die. Unless somebody's going to empty your bank account, get a cashier's check and bury it. Just put it in your grave. Like that's when, why would you do that? When everybody else, your family and friends could use it. The people who need it. You got it, you ain't gonna use it. Like for instance, on my publishing, for all the music I made, All that stuff's going to my wife, man. You know, I'm gonna take all the music, all the publishing, all the ownership, and transfer it all to her. You know, if anything happens, she gets it. You know, knowledge is the same thing. Knowledge is money, bro. You know, wisdom is money. Matter of fact, it's better than money. You know, it's better than money because it doesn't run out. Money runs out. You know, like for instance, when I got out of prison, I used to work for C&B Mechanical. It was an HVAC company. They were kind of skittish about hiring me until they saw my work ethic. They were like, holy smokes. I found this out later. He was like, yo, man, the dude, Chad, it was C&B, Chad and Barry. When Chad was like, yo, bro, he said, we were kind of skittish about hiring you. But he said, you proved your worth to the company, man. You know, but you got Chad. His name was Chadwick Spratley Vanderbilt. I don't know if you ever heard of Rich Vanderbilt, the Vanderbilt family. They were rich. He was one of the great grandkids. And by the time the great grandkids came around, that money was gone. You know. And he started his company with $200, a pickup truck, an old beat up pickup truck, and a dream. That's what he says. I started off my business with $200, $250. I want to say it was 200. Old beat up pickup truck and a dream. And his company was big to the point where he retired, man. He retired, he was 35, he retired. Bought a motorcycle, bought a house. He had a house, had a bunch of cars, bought a motorcycle, and just decided to drive around the country. But, you know, that was inspiration for me. I said, if he can do it, I can do it. He never went to college. He figured it out, you know. But yeah, you make the world that you want. You create the world you want. $42. Okay, good. There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about that. It's in Proverbs. For as a man thinketh, so he is. You are what you think you are. You're not what you are. You're what you think you are. You know. I mean, there becomes a point in time when you're too old and it's too late to change your life. You know, like you're in your 80s or your 90s. But if you want to do something, you can create your own reality, man. You know? Just how much are you willing to work for it? This thing is, I don't know, it feels weird. There we go. That's another place I'd like to go to, Monaco. Okay, good. Cha-cha. I feel you, bro. You know what that's called? Occupational hazard. Or it's basically bitterness, man. You know, if people were self-motivated, there would be no such thing as managers. There'd be owners and workers. You know, I feel you on that, though. Let me get this fan. I feel you on that. You know, you know what? Well, yeah. Yeah, man. That's like the one thing. That's the one thing I hate about owning your own company. He said, I don't know yet. I don't know. Might be. Bad Bunny's dope. But that's the thing, man. There we go. That's the thing. Finding people who are just as motivated, you know, as you are. Oh, this needs way more weight. Take these 10s off. Some 25 here. 3, 4, 5. That's the hard thing, man. Finding people just as motivated to do the job as you are. You know, that's a life, that's an age-old question. I mean, that's an age-old dilemma. How to find somebody just as motivated as you are to do the work, you know. That's why the situation I have now, I want to hire my kids, you know. They have a vested interest in it, you know. Keep it in the family. You know, they have a vested interest in seeing the business thrive. Because they know when you're gone, they got it. You know. There we go. More weight. 70. 80. Try 80. 90. There we go. You know, yeah, that's the age-old problem. Finding workers, they're gonna actually do the work. You know, when am I gonna play drums? I don't know. When I get finished working out. After I get finished working out, then I'm gonna do some meditating and do some reading. Then I'll get on the practice pad. You know, it's early now. It's 7 o'clock. It's early. The earliest I'll get on the drums is 9 o'clock. You know, it's a noise ordinance. You know, it starts at 9 and ends at 10 at night. So, you know, um, you know, I've never really had to deal with cops, thankfully, because I wherever I move, you know, wherever if I decide I'm gonna move somewhere, I check the noise ordinance. I started doing that. So back when I started playing drums, I would have parties at my house with live bands, you know, and I had to check the noise ordinance, you know. Um, I mean, we'd be out there till like we'd be out there till we'd be partying till like 1 o'clock. And I would you know, and the noise ordinance is 10 at night. It didn't really start till 10 at night. Well, it started at like 9 o'clock. Then people be filing in to my house at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, I'd have a good crowd. By 10 o'clock, we would be rocking. You know, we would be rocking. You know, then people from people I did not know, people from all over the place at my house. You know, um, you know. But yeah, I just learned back then. Um, I learned back then. Check the noise on it. I mean, one of the cops was like, "Yo, bro, you know, I understand you're a drummer." He lived like kind of. He had to pass my house to get home. You know, to get back and forth to work. He always passed my house, and he's like, I hear you playing drums and everything." He's like, "Bro, you gotta check the noise on it." In Jersey, it's from 9 to 9.
you know. Or no, it was like from 10 to 10, something like that. I know the one here in North Atlanta, it's from 9 in the morning to 10 at night. Like, you gotta go on the city limits and all that stuff. Um, well, yeah, so you know, but the way I've got everything soundproof and everything, I don't really get complaints. Sometimes I play, a little later. I don't get complaints.
But I don't like to push it. My neighbors are cool. Well, I gotta check my stats. Mm. There we go. So evidently it's 6 something. Oh, okay, YT. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, wow. Just checking stats, guys. Oh, it's right there. Right there. Hmm. Okay, well. I like this. I like this. I like this. All right, enough. Enough of that. All right. Huh? Oh no. Oh no. She left him and now she gets half the money. How many million? $45 million. Oh no. $50 million NFL contract. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oof. Actually, what? Yeah, for real. I'm like, what? You sound dumb as a rock. No. There we go. Easier to grab. Oh, that's a lot easier. Why didn't I think of this before? That's a new one. This guy ain't tough. He ain't saying much. I just do this. wasn't new, I might only do 2 sets. Ah. 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 Yeah, I like that. Ah. 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 Oy. Oy. Oof. Yeah. I don't want to overdo it because those are new ones. That's some new stuff, but I like it, so I'm gonna work on those. That's oh, bingo.